Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner. During the Zoom link in the agenda, no in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship and despite best efforts, we will post on the Westborough Public Library website audio or video recording, transcript, and other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And the agenda has links to the locations of the agenda, the recordings, and where the recording and minutes will go up. So, welcome everybody. I see we have Bob Peterson is a member of the public. He's, I know, Bob, I know you're affiliated with the Congregational Church. I'm not sure if you're speaking for the Congregational Church or if you'd like to speak at all.
I do have a number of questions. I am no longer a trustee of the Congregational Church. My term has ended, but as a member of the church, I am interested clearly in this project and have been the chair of the Board of Trustees for the church for several years and have a fair amount of experience with some of the library projects. In fact, I would say the most experience of anybody in our church. So I do have some questions, if I could ask them briefly.
Am I still muted?
Oh,
yes, go ahead, Bob.
okay. Given the upgrades that are being proposed for the library, will the library or the town be required to meet current ADA standards?
Yes.
The answer is yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, the answer is yes. Am I not coming through loud?
Okay. The second question is, given current ADA standards, how will the library meet the parking requirements of the current ADA standards? In other words, parking spaces for the disabled, the handicap parking. Specifically, how will you meet those requirements?
Christina, you want to take that one on?
Yeah, I know that Tony is also super close to this, but since there is no parking on the existing site, I believe that we are not required to provide accessible parking on the site. So we are relying on surrounding parking on the street and adjacent near the Forbes building, the Parkman Street side.
Yeah, the two spaces across from Parkman at the Forbes building.
Okay. So if I could just repeat back to make sure I have a clear understanding. So the ADA handicap parking requirements will be satisfied by the two handicap parking spaces across the street on Parkman Street by the Forbes building, correct?
That was our understanding because we're providing 0 parking spaces on site.
Okay, to be more specific, and I would ask, because I can see Sean is on this also, but for anybody who was on the call, has there been any discussion at all about using an easement process for church property? And that would be anybody on the call who is aware of any discussion at all regarding an easement, including a short-term construction easement on the church property. And Sean, if I could just jump in, you and Ed are well aware of the previous project and the issue where the church, it went to the public in the planning board meeting, and no one had ever informed the church or even had any discussion with the church. And I'm really specifically trying to find out if that could happen again in this situation.
Yeah, so last time around, there was a draft put forward that had not been reviewed. There is, to my knowledge, no expectation of handicap parking on the Congregational Church site.
Okay, thank you.
I will second that. I'm not aware of any such discussion.
Okay, thank you. Fourth question, do you have a backup plan? And Sean, this is obviously concerning to you, and I have been involved with this. We have concerns about this. Do you have a backup plan if the church and the town cannot reach an agreement regarding parking? regarding use of the church parking lot for construction?
We, as a committee, we have been working on that. So we do have currently other locations that have either agreed to provide us a certain number of spaces or that are town-owned property that we could utilize.
The
think
concern that
that-
I have is not the parking per se. It's the ability to use equipment because the distance from the library building to church property, give or take a little bit, is roughly 8 to 9 feet. And I think it was last summer or a year ago, perhaps, but last spring, Maureen had contacted me and asked for permission to use a lift on our property to evaluate the roof, which was fine. I had a picture of it, and we had no issue with that at all. But clearly, we have concerns about the potential damage to our building, potential safety issues that we have not been able to reach an agreement on yet. So my question is, how are you going to be able to handle the roof? How are you going to be able to handle the windows if you've only got 8 or 9 feet of clearance? That's what I mean by, do you have an alternative plan?
Let me jump in on that. We're preparing a request for proposal for bidders to do the construction, and that request for proposal as it stands now prohibits them from using the church property. Brian, you can confirm that for me if you would. Brian's the
That's correct, Ed. So currently, right now, as the specifications write, is that there is no access to the church parking lot. And we do write in the specification that there are the possibilities for the general contractor to reach agreements with any surrounding properties or other surrounding businesses for their own. But currently, right now, as the bid documents are shown, that there is there's no usage of that parking lot for not only parking, but any equipment.
Okay. And Ed, I see later in the meeting, you're going to discuss potential meetings with the planning board, the select board, the finance committee. When you get to those particular areas, I would be appreciative if you already have the dates and know when those are going to occur. We know when those are going to occur, if you would specify those dates at that portion of the meeting.
Yeah, Bob,
having those meetings at that time. We haven't got anything. We don't have any dates set at this point.
yeah,
Okay.
it would
The
be
initiative
up
to
to
start
those
setting the
boards.
dates.
I'm sorry, Sean?
It would be up to those boards to
It would be up to
determine.
those boards, okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will go on mute and we'll blank the video and we'll just listen from here. Thank you very much to all of you for the answers to my questions.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak? I'm not seeing any. Okay. Do we have minutes to approve? I don't think I've seen them. But I do go brain dead on that from time to time. Okay, so no minutes to approve. Okay, so overall project status update. I know that Vertex and LPA are within a couple of days of having a final RFP and sending that out for bids. Brian or someone, y'all want to give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, I can kick it to LPA when it talks about schedule, but we've had a couple different meetings, both with LPA internally, but also with the town administrator and the town accountant, now that Shab Khan is no longer with the town, about how we're going to be using the town's platform of BidNet in order to put these documents out to bid. The plan is to have the documents ready by this Friday. We'll be having a meeting with Allison, the town accountant, on getting some credentials in order to utilize BidNet. I've worked with my procurement manager who has some experience with it, so I don't anticipate any issues with that. We had some meeting with the town administrator as well to go through some of the contracts and the Division 1 work, just that we wanted to make sure that the town was in agreement with what we were putting in the bid documents. And some of the front end is also going to be reviewed by town council for their review. I do have an update on our total project budget. I don't know if it's something you'd like me to share today, Ed, about where we sit right now based upon the estimates, the reconciliation of said estimates, the addition of now a possible book drop that will be issued as an addenda. And then there's a few variables that we have not ironed out yet, but the intention is that we have firm numbers for town meeting so that we can provide a total project budget that goes in front of the taxpayers. I think you're on mute, Ed.
Put myself on mute so that my typing doesn't click too loud, but then I forget to put myself back on. I'm going to say the numbers from the estimates are still estimates. We're narrowing them down, but the real numbers will come when we get the bids back.
That's correct. The estimates that we're using right now in my total project budget reflect the most conservative of the numbers that we had. As you know, we went out for a second third-party estimate with our construction document, 75%. So we had LPA's estimator as well as Vertex estimator who sat in a room and went through their estimates and reconciled them and provided a final document for that. They were still off by around 2 to 3%, which is good though. If at this stage of the game, I use the most conservative numbers that we have. And ultimately right now, based upon those numbers, our project ask at annual town meeting 2025 has gone down since we started at the DD phase, which was back in August.
If you share those numbers, Brian?
Yeah.
You have this?
Yes, I can. Would you like me to share?
Yeah, I unless somebody strongly disagrees, I think transparency is the way.
You got it. Can you see my spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so what I did is I had a couple different iterations in here. This is where we started at DD back in August and where we had from our original estimate, which came from LPA's consultant. And then I put the next column next to it, which was at the our CD estimate around 75%, which had both estimates and then reconciled and what our construction subtotal would be. And so you can see that the construction subtotal went down slightly. However, this does not include some of the value engineering and the processes that we've done in the past few months, as well as some of the alternates that we have included, inclusive of the red slate composite that we're going to have on the roof, which saved the project to a tune around $260,000. Adding all that up, obviously some of the construction itself had gone up and some of the trades, particularly electrical trade, some of the mechanical trades, those have risen slightly, which offset some of those savings that we did with value engineering. But you can see that the construction cost right now, we are under where we were back in August to the tune of around $500,000. Scrolling down to some of our professional services and some of the soft costs that we have, I highlighted in green here. These are numbers that we've already asked for money for. We've had an ask in annual town meeting 2023. That was for the feasibility design work for LPA and Vertex. And then we had another ask at annual town meeting 2024, which was to finalize the design and get us through the bidding, which is where we are right now. But we want to include that so that we can show what the entire total project budget is at this point. FF&E and equipment we have some utility back charges, window treatments, decorative signage, and donor signage. If there's going to be recognition, we want to have placeholders for that. We also have some furniture and IT costs, which we've been working with LPA on regarding the furniture as well as the AV components and the communication systems throughout the building. And then we put a soft cost contingency on top of that, which is strictly a percentage based upon those professional services and the FF&E for any overages that we see once we begin construction, if there's any changes in scope. What I've highlighted here in yellow is the bigger variables that that's going to become a priority once we go out to bid. And that's going to be for our moving as well as the temporary library fit out. We understand that the BSC location that we toured a few weeks ago is now going to be the location that we're going to have our temporary residence. However, it's not going to come free. We do understand that there's going to be some fit out and possible equipment that's going to need to be purchased. Some of the bathrooms need to be cleaned up. And so we'll be working, once these drawings hit the street, what we want to do is engage with Kate and her staff, taking an inventory of what you have in the existing library and start bringing in some of the moving companies and really finalizing the scope. We have the request for proposal ready to go, but we're contacting some of these vendors ahead of time, letting them know what our schedule is, and ultimately the hope would be is that we could arrange a walkthrough for these vendors probably right after the new year, so that we can get proposals back. We can enter these into the budget and then firm up these numbers for our total project budget that we have. I tried to clean up a little bit what I'd been showing in previous meetings, which was a little too color coded and a little hard to follow. But ultimately what we have is column T here. This is where we were back in August and where we are right now. And we have a grand total project of around 15.693, and that would be with all of the alternates included. That would be for the book drop as well as the storm windows. And then we have a cost without the alternates, which is just north of 15.5. We then need to back out the money that we've already asked for, which was for the design for feasibility, as well as the design to get us through bidding, which was just under $1.5 million. And when you subtract that from our grand total costs, that gives us ultimately what our estimated project ask would be at annual town meeting 2025. So we're floating right around that $14 million number. The hope is that we can do better than this once we begin getting some firm numbers from moving companies, as well as understanding the exact scope that we're going to need and the temporary fit out. And so that's why I highlighted these numbers, because this $925,000, the hope is that would drop significantly once we receive some pricing from the state bid list movers for the relocation. So overall, I think we've maintained the cost that we've had for the past 5 months, if not done a little bit better. And the hope is by the time that we receive bids from a general contractor, we have other firm bids on these other soft costs that will give us the exact number that we're looking for to ask. Any questions?
Questions? Let's
Can
go ahead.
you, yeah, sorry, could
Go
you
ahead, Walter.
send that out?
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'll PDF this and send this out to the committee.
Thanks.
I just had a question. Are you carrying the most conservative value for the book drop alternate? There was quite a spread there, and I was just
So
wondering
what
about
I
that.
used, Christina, on this is there was 3 options on there for both of the estimators, and I cherry picked the $90,000, which seemed to be the more expensive of the 3 options. I believe it was like $89,000, and I put 90 in there just as a placeholder for the most conservative number for that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for going back up.
Anything else? Okay. Schedule. I know, Brian, you mentioned the bids should go out on the 20th, which is this Friday. And
Well,
we have, go ahead.
sorry, just to correct you, Ed, they will not be going out on Friday. What they are is LPA has them due to be sent to us and to be sent to the bid platform that we're going to be using. Ultimately, our goal is to review the documents, have some time for the town to review the front end and legal counsel to make sure that Division 0 and Division 1 is all set. And then we would work with the town. We were going to be advertising in the Central Register either the first day of the new year, therefore it would hit the streets and be available to bidders on the 8th of January.
How's that
That
the
would be-
first day of the new year?
First working day of the new year.
Is the 8th?
No, the 2nd.
Okay.
So with it, the way that the Central Register works, Walter, is that you need to advertise and enter into the schedule the Thursday prior.
Ah,
to it hitting the street.
Got
So
it. Okay.
if we
You're
advertise
putting
in
it out
advance-
on the second, but it shows up next week.
So if we
Yeah.
advertise with the Central Register on the 2nd of January, we would
Yeah.
have 5 days to actually get BidNet ready and the link ready so that the documents would be ready on the 8th for potential bidders.
Got it.
When would we expect responses from that?
Sure. So with that schedule that we have proposed, after it goes out on the street on the 8th, the ad will also be shown through Mass General Law. It needs to be advertised in a local newspaper. It needs to be hung up at Town Hall, and as well as needs to be advertised in combis, which the town would be assisting with us on that. The following week, we would hold a pre-bid conference. It's a non-mandatory conference for any contractors, filed sub, GC, or non-filed sub that would be able to walk the premises. So we will coordinate that with Kate and her staff. It's usually just an opportunity for contractors to see the location. There's really not a place to answer questions, as questions need to be submitted electronically so that all bid holders can receive all of the answers to the questions. So we'll hold that probably on the 15th, the following week, when drawings go out. On the 23rd of January, we would have a deadline for filed sub bidders to have any questions in to the design team by. So that on the 27th of January, our last addendum could be issued to bid holders for filed sub bidders. After that, we would have the due date for the filed sub bidders due on the 29th of January. And at that point, we would be receiving all of the trades that are deemed a filed sub bid would be received at that point. Those results get sent to all the general contractors that are going to be bidding on this, and they are required to be taking one of those bidders on there, barring any type of restrictions that filed sub bidders put on that. The usual process is that the general contractor would be taking the low bids for the filed sub bids, incorporating into their overall project bid. And then the GC process starts at that point. So we would have general contractor questions due on the 6th of February. We would issue a final addendum for general contractors on the 10th of February. And then as of right now, we have the bids due for the entire project for the construction costs due on the 12th of February.
February 12th, we will have a number.
As of
Should
right
help
now,
as
yes.
well.
So
Okay.
things that could change with that, Ed, is if we say that there is a general contractor question that comes in right at the deadline on the 6th of February that has some significant detail that LPA needs to work with in answering this, we may need to discuss as a project team whether or not we want to give bidders an extra day to put that into their bid. But that's something we would have to discuss once we receive these questions, if we feel as though it's a little more involved than a normal question.
Do you have a schedule yet for bidding for the move or the temporary library fit out?
Not per se yet. What we're going to do is once these go out to bid, we'll work with the movers to get that in, and we will put a proposed schedule in the RFP to these movers about what the dates are with the approval at town meeting. The goal would be is that once town meeting and a successful vote at town meeting, we would hit the ground running that following week, executing contracts with a state bid list vendor and getting that work right underway. There's also language in our contract and front-end documents with the construction contractor that everything is based upon a successful vote at town meeting. And the other caveat is that the library and staff needs adequate time in order to move out. So while if we issue a notice to proceed or a notice to intent to a general contractor, they would be able to begin submitting on submittals and other procurement items, but they would not be able to mobilize on the site until it is deemed vacant for them.
Okay. Any questions, concerns, thoughts from the group?
My only thing to note is that the select board will likely close the warrant around February 25th. So when we do get those bids and that information, we're going to have to conclude what we want at least published in the warrant article quickly.
Okay. Anything else?
It's like a plan.
Is this just out of curiosity, is this going to be pushing them to go faster than usual, or is this a, you know, reasonable schedule, or?
For contractor bidding,
Yeah,
it's on the aggressive side, but we've done more aggressive as well. So
Okay.
this is within the law for the response times that we want. And yeah, I think we're comfortable with this.
is the relocation and temporary space update. So I'm going to paraphrase what the select board decided 2 weeks ago. You probably know, but just to get it on the record. So the select board voted for the library to use the community center as temporary space and to delay the vote on the senior center's move to the community center until at least November 2020, until the fall 2025 town meeting. I forget what the date is, which means that we're guaranteed space there in what we've been calling the back half of the community center for the duration of our repair project. But in 6 months or at some point when if and when the senior center move goes through, they will be doing construction on the front half. And at that point, you may have to move quickly to, you know, coordinate, make sure we're out of their way, make sure they're not in our way, make sure the library can continue to function during construction and all that. So Kate and Brian, I know, are thinking in terms of sort of permanent stuff in the back half and quickly movable temporary stuff in the front half. And hopefully I'm not even going to say hopefully, but we may be able to keep the front half the whole time, which would be good for us and tougher for the senior center, or we may have to move, but we'll just see. So, Sean, is that pretty accurate summary?
Yes, thank you, Ed. And I think part of the reason that the select board wanted to keep the flexibility of, you know, sort of not guaranteeing the library the entire first floor for the duration of the restoration project is concern that if construction costs fluctuate dramatically, that we want to be able to act, you know, quickly if necessary. So I think that's, you know, probably the primary reason that the select board just guaranteed until the fall, and then we'll continue to evaluate over that time. So.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Next thing on my list is update on identification of library relocation services. I think we've already got that from what Brian told us before.
Yep.
And also identifying firms to do the design and construction for fit out, which my understanding is that once the RFP is out and people could take a breath and enjoy the Christmas holidays, then we'll dig into that more seriously.
Yeah, we're going to really prioritize it once we hit the new year, though, because we don't have too much time. We're going to have about a month and a half to get this done. So, and get some proposed pricing and get it apples to apples and recommend somebody to the committee.
Excellent. Anything else with regards to relocation into temporary space? Okay. Anything? We have other building related issues. Parking, you all heard about the contract. I'm going to some background. The way the contract is written, we're not guaranteeing any particular parking spaces. The contractor, I believe, and that if a contractor, for instance, wants to use the congregational church, they could have one-on-one negotiations with the church or with the Bay State Park Common or whatever it was. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to that, and thanks to, I know he's not on, but thanks to Bill, who kind of brokered communication between myself and Jeremy, who is the owner of the BSC area and the facility there. I've been in touch with him, and like I said before, our specification is not talking about anything promised to the general contractor for parking and available area. But we are reaching out and having initial discussions about the possibility if there needs to be any laydown area or proposed area that a contractor needs to put a trailer or something like that. We're trying to get some options for a potential GC that we would be able to help broker that with them.
Also, too, is I know that some of the primary concerns of the church was laydown, and we know that that is in the contract that we're not going to be using that. But just, I think if Bob is still on the line, that we do have an informal agreement with St. Luke's Church for up to 20 to 25 parking spaces per day during business hours, except for holy days, for construction workers to use the St. Luke's parking lot. So there won't be any worker pickup trucks and cars in front of the Congregational Church or on blocking any other entrances. That hopefully they'll be able to use 20 to 25 spaces a day at St. Luke's for the duration of the project.
Thanks, Bob.
Anything else on parking? With the book drop redesign, I just bringing up, I think that we're basically done with that. The design is done. It's going to go into the RFP as an alternate, or it'll go as an addendum later on. Is that correct, LPA?
That is correct. That the design of it is complete, and it's just a matter now of getting our documents complete to show that. They will most likely not go out with that information as, the original construction documents. They will probably go as an addendum item, but we have begun to set things up so it will be as seamless as possible.
Okay.
Just to
I mean,
reiterate,
given this stuff's not going out till the 2nd or whatever, like, I don't know. I think we should push you guys to get that out. It's my opinion.
We'll do the best we can, Walter. If we can make it happen, it's not just us, it's our consulting engineers too, and they have other commitments as well. So I can't speak for them, but we'll do our best. I think getting it out as even as an addendum is a big win, because you'll still get the advantage of competitive bidding, but I understand what you're saying.
just to reiterate, Eric, too, that will be going out as alternate 1, regardless if it's an addendum or not, right?
Yes, that is correct. It's they have to be taken in orders, and that's the preferred alternate. So that is number 1.
Thank you.
Anything else on the book drop? Any
Yeah,
other buildings?
so just
Go
to
ahead.
clarify, that makes sense, because I think we're unlikely to do the storm windows, but we can still do the book drop
Correct.
Right.
without the other.
Yeah.
But if we did it in a reverse order, we couldn't. Is that correct? Okay, good.
Anything else on the book drop and any other building related issues? Kate.
I just wanted to let you guys know about one other little issue. Well, not little issue, but big issue that we had a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you were watching, but there was a Saturday, I believe it was the 7th, that we actually had to close the building because we had and Lynn, you can jump in whenever you want because you dealt with most of it. We had a fan coil unit, a valve on it malfunction, not fail completely, but malfunction. And it flooded the one that's on the first floor of the building, kind of in that hallway area on top of the stairs. It malfunctioned. It leaked all over that stairway and then down into the ramp area. So staff noticed it around 5 o'clock on Friday. around 7:30, 8 p.m. Friday. I came in just to check on it. Fan coil unit was blasting on high, turned it off. It didn't look too bad. We're hoping we had kind of saved everything until the morning when Lynn could get there and call the ARC, the company that we use for our HVAC. They came in and basically what they said was, and also the valve was calcified. So to turn it off, basically they needed to use their tools to turn it off. So long story, basically, if it had completely malfunctioned, what they told us was we would have had inches of water on the lower level of the library where the children's room is. So we got very, very lucky that it was just a partial malfunction. That being said, there are, I think we counted 14 other fan coil unit valves that still exist that have not been updated in the building. And so Lynn and I are on high alert also because of the way that the library functions within the town. When things like this happen, it is Lynn and I's problem and nobody else's. And I am a librarian. I could read about how to fix this, but I can't fix these things. And so just wanted to bring it up to make you guys aware that we are kind of at a very critical junction as we move towards this vote, that every weekday that goes by, there are more things happening. We had a lot of damage to the carpets. We had damage to ceiling tiles. We had damage, just lots of, could have been worse, but still pretty bad. I hung up signs that said, excuse our appearance. Follow this QR code to learn more about the library repair project. I posted on the Facebook, we are closed. Go here to learn more about the library repair project. So I'm really trying it at every corner to remind people that this is why we're doing this project. But I just wanted you guys to be aware. Trying to make a habit of letting you guys know whenever we have system malfunctions to add to the slide deck.
Question on that, coming from a chemistry background, do you know what the coolant is that flows through those fan coils? And in particular, if it's not water, is it hazardous?
It's water, right, Lynn?
It is water.
With water? Okay, good. That makes life a
Yeah,
lot easier.
Apparently, if we had turned off the full system water, it would have all just backed up anyway. So it's really hard to even assess what we're supposed to do in situations like that. So yeah, we're doing our best. Lynn's doing her best, I'll say.
As you know, we're doing our best to get that all fixed, which is not an instant process. Any other building related issues? Any more fun stuff? Okay.
There was an email that was sent out in regard to air circulation on the re-entry into the building. Do you want to discuss that today?
I was going to bring that up, Peter, as well as that, and then Christina, if you wanted to discuss whether or not there needs to be a vote regarding anything proprietary.
So I guess I'll start with the flush out, and then I will kind of turn it back over to Mike about the proprietary thing, because I got a little bit more information on that today. That's all right. So the flush out question, Christy had asked me to kind of bring this to Ben Bowers and yourself, Pete, as kind of our experts on the topic. Just to let you know, flush out is not required. It's something that's required for LEED projects typically. And it is a way to kind of like essentially get a complete refresh of the air inside the building after construction to make the indoor air quality better for the occupants that are going to be moving in. So the flush out is basically replacing all the air inside the building using the mechanical systems, getting all this fresh air inside the building. And it can take up to 2 weeks if you do it prior to occupancy, because it has to happen after the furniture is installed and all finishes are complete and before occupancy, ideally. It's completely up to the committee and the town to decide whether or not a flush out it would be desired and the degree to which we should flush out the building prior to construction. But we need to be able to put it into the document so that the contractor knows for their schedule and their costs that they're going to have to leave time and money for this flush out. So I passed along the information to Pete, Ed, and Ben Bauer, and I'm happy to send it around to anybody else who might be interested in finding more about that. So we're looking for direction on what to have in the specifications for what the contractor should own on that front.
So I have some thoughts. I shudder to think that I'm the expert at this for the town, but I'd say a couple things. One is it's a health safety issue for the occupants of the building is kind of the issue being addressed. It's not a climate related or neighborhood related. It's for the occupants of the building. And I think there's a standard 2-week program that I learned about from your email that is for lead certification. I think there's shades of gray we can explore, and I'd suggest we do that. I think Kate and Lynn and the library staff will be excited to get into the building, but they may not be as excited if they know there's hazardous chemicals in the air and so forth. So I think part of it is that health trade-off for the staff in particular. And one thought was to have the HVAC system is going to be up and running before the furniture goes in and so forth. So some of this air purging could be getting particulate matter out and VOCs out and other things for the week or two while the furniture is being moved in and set up, which is then going to stir up more. But you could start the process and have a serial overlap of the schedule so that you're not costing time to occupancy. I'd recommend that. And then I don't have any expertise in this. A few days of kind of total purging. Maybe it's not the full 2 weeks, but maybe there's a way we can find a shade of gray that works for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was saying is we absolutely do not need to follow the lead requirements. That's just they're setting out a benchmark so that they can actually measure it. There is an alternative where you do an flush out during occupancy, which just takes a little bit longer. It goes a little bit slower, but it's with the recognition that folks are in the building and moving in. Did you hear anything from Ben? I know that Christy was interested in.
Ben
Oh,
and
that's
I
your
met.
collective decision. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and he and I both shared that neither of us had any idea what you were talking about and had to go think about it and look into it. So
Okay.
I'm reflecting his thoughts in my comments also.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Question, do we know at this point what finishes are going to be used? In particular, is it going to be oil-based paint versus latex paint?
We do have specifications for the paint and the adhesives and everything, and we always try to use best practices to go with low VOC content. So the spec is like 25 pages long. I know, Eric, you could probably chime in on the various paints and coatings that we have going on inside the building. So that's something you'd like us to share, we could.
I think we need to do that right now. It's just that, if it is a oil-based coating, there's a lot more VOC and a lot more that people might be breathing. I like Pete's solution though, is try and get as much of, because I think most of the load is going to come from the paint. And
I would think the carpeting would also be of
okay,
concern.
And I think the furniture also has a factor too. It kind of gives you that new car smell that you kind of love to have in your
new
car,
carpet,
but
new paint.
yeah, exactly.
Oh.
So I think that's why they want you to have the furniture in first before they do the flush out. That's the thought process there.
Feeling to the extent that there's a hazard, the library staff is going to be spending more time in it than anybody. So what are your thoughts there?
You're asking my thoughts?
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that we're going to be living in temporary space in a construction zone. So I'm not really sure if it makes a huge difference to move into our space and have it have kind of those same things. I tend to agree kind of with Pete that there's got to be some sort of shade of gray where we're doing some of this, what's good enough. I don't want to poison my staff with dust and stink and all of that, but obviously I feel like 2 weeks is a long time for something like that. So
The other question is there test equipment that could be temporarily acquired to understand what you're asking employees to sit in and have some sense of what's good enough? Because I agree it's a good enough question, but I have no idea what's good enough.
I personally haven't gone the testing route. I'm not sure if anybody else at LPA or Vertex could chime in. My understanding that is it's really difficult to pass the test because if something's happening like outside down the road, like some paving is happening, that can actually trigger your test inside the building. So I've heard that in the lead version of the testing is very difficult. However, if it's just for information for the staff, that's something that we could write into the specs, I would say, is to do some indoor air quality testing.
Yeah, I was thinking of it as you got your occupancy data a week in advance, you set up the equipment, you start taking data, you begin the purge, hopefully it's going down.
Okay.
And then at some point you start asymptoting to a steady state level and you say, good enough, and you move.
So maybe the solution here, and feel free to chime in anybody else, is I could work with our mechanical engineer to come up with something that's in the middle here, that based on what I'm hearing from you today, and we'll get that into the specifications. So there's some degree of no real delay before occupancy, but maybe like a week of time ahead of time before people are moving in, we do a little bit of flush out and testing to see how things are going inside the building. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Look at the cost of the
Time.
testing too. Yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes hazmat stuff is expensive, but I don't
I
know
can
how
find
this
out
would be.
more about that. I
Yeah.
know that with lead, it's very rare that anybody wants to go down that road.
Okay,
But I'll create a
the
draft
nose
of that and
test,
send it to you.
just walking in and sniffing and seeing if you're smelling stuff. And if you walk into the building, you start getting a headache, there's some data for you right there.
Probably
So I'll draft
also,
something up and go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
like a lead building would be so sealed up, it would be very different than this building will be when it's done.
Yeah,
I would
there's
think.
different varieties of lead, even for even for existing buildings and renovations. So there is there's a large, range, but it could be a newer building might be more tight. But your windows are going to be all, no more drafts and stuff like that. It's going to be great.
It's true.
That
Christine,
sounds
do
good.
you
I'll
have what
run
you
something
need for
by.
that?
I'll come up with
Go ahead.
something that I think is reasonable and run it by Pete and the group that I sent the flush out information to.
Yeah, can I just throw in one other odd thing is in order to move back into the building, there's gonna be some multi-day period of moving all the books and stuff back in too, and that assume the furniture's back for that. So that could be part of this time period, right? Because it can't be just an hour to move everything back. It's got to be days, I'm guessing.
It's just basically getting the okay from the committee that we're not going to ask the contractor to leave 2 weeks of unoccupied library here.
Got
So
it.
that's kind of what we wanted to make sure that we wanted to know your expectations there.
If there is in fact construction going on at the senior center, I'm just going to guess the staff will be anxious to get out of there and back to their own home. So, okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay. So the other thing, Christina mentioned the proprietary security system. Do you want to describe that for us?
Yes, for that one, I think, Mike, are you prepared to just give us a quick little mini update on that? I thought that we needed to go forward with a proprietary spec from Genetech, but it sounds like we're actually going with essentially a proprietary vendor, if that sounds
Sure.
accurate to you, Mike.
That's correct. So there are times when there are products that need to be proprietary, meaning that there's only one product that will work for the project. So when we were looking at the security system, cameras, card access, and video recording, that we thought these systems need to be included with the electrical filed sub-bidder. And that they would, in order for them to work with the current system working within the town, they may need to be proprietary so that we could be sure that they worked with the existing system. However, today we confirm that the town, excuse me, the town vendor will be providing the equipment, installing it, and programming it under the town's current contract or agreement. And what the project only needs to provide are the raceways and wiring from wherever the installation location is back to our rack in the new IDF room. So when it comes down to it, we don't need a proprietary spec, but we do need to coordinate with the town IT, and I think it's the fire department that manages how those systems get integrated with the current system to make sure that we have that process in place to make sure the right systems get installed. Our electrical engineer has been coordinating with the town vendor, BCM, to make sure that they have the proper raceways provided for the equipment that they will be installing, they being BCM. But again, we just need to make sure we have the right coordination between our documents, the vendor, and the appropriate people within the town to get that system working.
Can I ask Mike, so that would mean that just from a budgetary standpoint, the bid that will come in for construction now will not have the actual equipment that comes for security and access control. That's actually going to fall now under ultimately an FF&E or an equipment line item at this point. So we might be moving some money out of our construction number, but we're going to need some additional funds in order for this equipment to be installed by the town vendor.
That's accurate, Brian. Yeah, so there will be a cost coming down separate of the project budget costs. So the general contractor value that will have to be applied from some other.
No, yeah,
Through
that's
some
good
other
news that
line
there's
item.
already a contract in place and comfortability there that they can come in. So we'll coordinate with them, making sure that they can have some spot checks on when conduit and provisions are going in, and then bringing them in towards the end of the project when they're putting in their actual hardware and equipment.
So, from the budget perspective, the money for this will still come from the library, from the repair project, but it'll come from, not from the construction budget, but from the other stuff budget.
That's my
Yeah.
understanding. Yes.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
How we would handle that, Ed, is when we put together our invoice packets, we would be working with the vendor BCM directly, who would send us their invoices, and we would bundle it in with our project invoices to make sure that it's being paid out of the library budget.
But BCM like boy or VCM like victory?
B as in boy.
B as in boy. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I think you were saying you needed a vote for that, but from what the sound of it, we maybe don't need a vote for that.
That's correct, Ed. A vote's no longer needed for proprietary spec on that regard.
Great. Okay, any building related issues? Let's move on to outreach. First thing I have on this is meeting with town bodies, and what I want to do is start planning for whatever meetings we need to do in the new year to prepare for town meeting. I know the finance committee wants to meet with us. I imagine the select board will want to, and if any other departments are interested, we should set that up. Sean or Walter, should we start thinking about dates now, or just put that look at that again in January?
For the AFC, I can give you a date if you want, because I actually set them, and Sean doesn't get to set everything himself, right? So I would recommend, given when you're getting your numbers in, either, and you can think about it, you don't have to pick it today, but the 27th, a Thursday, of February, or the 3rd, a Monday of March, or 6th, which is the Thursday in March. That sounds like we'd have time to get the numbers, process it, create a presentation, but it's early enough in our cycle that we have time to ask questions and come back if we have more or something. The R&R book has to be completed, approved and everything by the 13th. So it's about a week or so ahead of that at the later date. So gives you the time frame.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And
Well,
I think we found out the select board is supposedly having a meeting on the 25th.
Is that the Tuesday?
Yeah. So that might be a good target for you. I don't know when your next one would be, sometime in March, probably like the 12th or something. But that's up to
Right.
you guys. I don't know exactly that schedule.
Yeah, I think hold off for now. We'll start talking about the schedule. I think probably our first meeting in January. But sometime in February makes sense.
are there any other town bodies that we should be reaching out to?
Town bodies. I mean, we've already reached out. I mean, it sounded like the historical commission was interested in a presentation. If you want to give extra presentations, you could similarly, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Whether
No,
the
I think
planning board would have that interest or not.
we want to reach out to people just
Mm.
and get the word out. So if in particular the historical commission, I think that would be good to look at. Okay. LPA and Vertex, if you wind up working with anybody in town, I'd appreciate if you just ask them if they need to talk to us, because we will make sure that happens if they want us.
Sure.
Okay. Just one, Kate, myself, and a trustee, Janine Mindrum, did a quick presentation at the Highlands last Wednesday, was it? About a week ago, on what the library is doing, partly what the building project is. People were very interested in what the library was doing, and then we had an audience of about 8, and about half of them left when I started talking. But the ones who stayed are interested in the library. So, Kate, do you want to add anything to that?
No, just that we've got a few more planned. I think we have the Willows in a couple weeks, and we'll be at the senior center January, February, and March.
Is that do you know if the December 26th one is still on?
I'm not sure. I think it is. I
I'll
won't
ask
be
tomorrow
there,
with the
but
trustees.
Janine might go.
Cool.
Sorry to
Any
interrupt
other?
you, but just wanted to let you know that Eric and I had to jump off for another commitment.
Okay.
We didn't just want to go.
Yeah.
We'll see you very soon.
Outreach is not really your job at this point in any case. So,
All right.
okay, great. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Any other meeting type things we should discuss? Has anybody?
Was there any thought on? I didn't know if there was anything the committee had to do to release this bid package or whatever. I mean, I think we're
Sean,
all
do you
good
know of
with what
anything?
they're doing. I just don't know whether you need a vote from us to say go ahead as amended or something.
Typically,
I see Sean was shaking his head. Brian, do boards usually vote on this
She's
before it
muted.
goes out?
I don't know.
Not typically. If what we're under contract for is through bidding now at this point, we would just be continuing with what we've been contracted to do. If the committee has any issue with the schedule that we've laid forth, or if they'd like to vote that they're all in favor of the proposed bidding schedule, I have no problem with that.
I'm not looking for extra votes. I was just
Okay.
asking, so we
Okay.
didn't get ourselves in a, we forgot to do something situation. Because I don't want any more delays.
Assume we will be voting whether or not to recommend that the town accept the bid
Yes,
when the time that comes around.
but that's more February, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Is there a public hearing, a public meeting planned, a webinar, Westborough TV? Is there kind of a outreach to the residents and the voters besides the formal committees that you mentioned?
We have something with on Shelby Marshall's TV show coming up. I don't remember the date. Kate, has the library, are you thinking in terms of having some, information meetings at the library?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we would definitely do that. I think what we're waiting for is, I guess we were hoping to wait for the final number before we went and did that. I just don't know that we're going to be there. We may have to go with kind of our preliminary numbers. But yeah, we should definitely plan some information sessions here. And we can also have Westborough TV broadcast those.
I very much agree that we don't want to wait until late February before we start pushing this.
But then
So
the focus can be on the content and less on the numbers, with the
Yeah.
numbers coming out in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be really good to have some additional meetings. Like I think we did this last time too.
we did.
There were
We
a
had,
couple
I
of
think,
meetings where people could come and ask their questions, because you only can ask so much at a town meeting.
Yeah.
Really, it's
Yeah.
it's pretty quick, and it's mostly opinions at that point. So
And
and encourage people to attend town meeting at those meetings.
have floor plans and some of the artists' three-dimensional drawings and stuff to get people enthused about it, both programmatically and what changes are being funded with the money we're asking for.
Okay. Kate, let's bring that up at the trustee meeting tomorrow also, because we'll get them on board. Okay, any other? Yeah, if anyone chooses to go out looking for places to meet, it's a civic, we talked to the civic club, or was it the Rotary Club? I forget. Maureen and I visited the Rotary Club 6 months ago, probably over at the brewery. Then I can't remember. So anything like that, we're certainly interested in doing. Okay. Last sort of concrete agenda item is website updates. And I know Mike Karp, who is a trustee and has been waiting on listening, I'm sure with great interest to our last hour and a half, took a close look at it. Mike, you want to tell us what you found? And if any other building committee members have suggestions or comments, we need to hear that as well. You're still muted, Mike.
Sorry,
There
new
you go.
software. Okay, I'm guessing you can hear me now. Tell me what you're looking to hear from me right now.
Say Mike sent me some proposed changes. I think that was earlier today, maybe yesterday, and I have been unable to look at them beyond seeing that they exist.
Okay, what I've done basically is I did just a very quick look at the whole website so I could understand the building committee web pages in context, and seems to me there's a lot of language that can be fixed. But there's maybe too much language there, and this is a wonderful opportunity to use visuals rather than words. But the easiest fix that I can think of right now is to put a pointer to all the information right on the top page of the library committee website. The library website.
Yeah, Ed, I was wondering if maybe Mike and I and yourself, that we could get together as a group and maybe put these changes into action and then bring it to the committee?
You know, the are we going to need to talk to the developers of the website, or is that something that was developed in-house? It looked like it was developed by some third party.
We do have a web company, but we can make the changes ourselves. But I think that we need to have the changes, like we need to work on the changes together as a group, and then we can introduce it back to the committee, because I think
Yeah,
it's not productive.
I agree. It might be, I'll pitch some times, and I'm guessing my schedule may be a bit more flexible than yours, but I'll try to accommodate whatever time is works for you.
Mike, I think we can discuss it tomorrow night at trustees meeting.
Okay,
We can get together then.
great.
Cool. Did anybody else get a chance to look at the site? And I'm just as guilty here. I looked at it a while back and I haven't gone back into it. Mary?
Ed, I have, and just some feedback quickly for your discussion to frame it. I always think it's super important that it can be like reached vividly, visually from the front of the library website, like Mike had just mentioned, but that all our information should be in chronological order, backward, like the newest one up top. I think right now we start and go down. And so I just want someone, when they click to project updates, to have the latest and greatest up top.
I certainly agree with that.
No, I agree, Mary. I think it's just a matter of like getting together, figuring out what that language is, and then making the changes and introduce it as a group.
Let's, as you suggested, let's me and Mike get together tomorrow for the trustees and pick a time, and we'll come up with some specific suggestions for redesigning it. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions about that? Any other building related issues? We've already had one pass at this, but it's on the agenda, so I'll ask again. Hearing nothing, next meeting date. Let me start by asking Vertex and LPA, is there a particular time you need us to meet?
I don't think so at this point. I mean, if there's a point that we'd like to meet after the filed sub bid submissions, we would be able to give an update on kind of where we sit from a budget perspective and how we think the bids are coming in. But that's something I can just provide the information to the committee as well.
You mentioned the filed sub bids are due on January 29th, which would be after our regular next meeting, I believe, usually the fourth Tuesday of the month. Okay. Do we need, from the outreach perspective or any other perspective, to get together sooner than that? Maybe. I'm inclined to think that we should pick I'm going to pull up the calendar and suggest a date.
January 14th, maybe. So regular meeting the 28th next?
The regular meeting would be the 28th. Yes. So we have the 28th and the 14th. Brian, should we push that meeting on the 28th back to the 4th so that the sub bids are in?
That sounds fine. Yes.
Is there something we're going to need to do with the sub bids other than just information?
Just information. The only other thing I can think about is we're going to be doing a lot of work in January regarding the move RFP.
Temporary, right, okay.
And that may be something we need to provide an update to the town.
Okay. Let's schedule a meeting for Tuesday, January 14th at 3:30. We'll focus on outreach and whatever comes up for the temporary library and relocation. And then we can pick another date on that based on need.
I have a question with the sorry, Walter, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that it seems like with the relocation stuff, there may be more yeah, it's a good idea. Sorry.
Brian, with you mentioned a walkthrough with the filed sub bids and eventually with the general contractor. Do you need members of the building committee with those bidders walking through, or is it just something that you and LPA walk them through it? Or do they do that on their own, looking at what the specs are?
Yeah, we'll definitely be in attendance. We'd ask that someone from LPA, everyone else is welcome to be there as well. It's usually less than an hour now. We provide them access to take a look at some certain things, and we'd coordinate that with Kate as to what time of day that worked best for them. But it's very informal. But if someone would like to attend, they're more than welcome.
Okay.
The 15th. So presumably right after the LBC meeting. Let's bring that up again in our meeting on the 14th. I think it'd be good to just to have someone be there and meet the representatives of the various potential bidders. As I understand it, Brian, they're not supposed to ask questions, which would imply we're not supposed to answer them other than just walking around and showing them the building.
Correct. Usually I just take the lead, give some high level information on the project, introduce ourselves, and then allow them access to the certain areas and walking around the premises. And then if any questions do arise from that they put it in writing and submit it formally through the BidNet process.
It'll be interesting to see how many bidders we get. You mentioned, again, when you get the sub bids in first, they typically range about 50–60% of the total project cost. We'll have some kind of idea early on when the filed sub bid packages come in.
Correct. Yep.
Can you let me know at some point, this is not urgent, just which trades will be filing sub bids? And I'm going to try and put together some kind of comparison thing based on the estimates and what you send me.
Sure. We have a list of who's going to be filed sub bids on this. I can send that to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Any other building related or building committee related issues? Okay. So our next meeting will be on the 14th, focusing on outreach and temporary library stuff. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's see. I'll go through the list. Kate?
Caraccio, yes.
Pete?
Dunbeck, yes.
Petroselli, yes.
Lynn?
Sukup, yes.
You want to adjourn?
Sorry, Miss Keough, yes.
Okay, yep.
Leslie, yes.
That's right.
So yes, Mary?
Johnson, yes.
Al?
I didn't hear one.
And Ed Baldwin is yes. So I think I got everybody, and it's unanimous adjourn. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Enjoy your holidays.